In this video, we're going to be talking about a concept that I think will be really helpful to you in most all of your rhinestone design work. What we have here is a design that we did earlier. You can see here is our Southern Girl design. Okay, and it's a real nice, simple design. And then this is where the southern part, this is kind of where it all starts, is with just a bunch of lines. Now, the way this design came about was actually drawn on a piece of paper. That piece of paper was scanned on the computer, and then those lines that were drawn were then traced using the straight line and three-point curve tool here in CorelDRAW, and that's how we got all these paths to add stones to. Now, if I were to go in here right now and just select the entire southern and choose add stones, you can see it basically does a good job of adding stones to our predefined paths. But there are two areas in the design where there's a problem, and that is right here where the line kind of overlaps. You can see that little cluster of stones, and then right here with the letter T you also see a little cluster of stones there at that intersection. And that's really what we want to talk about in this particular video. Now, what I also want to do is show you the same exact design in other rhinestone programs you may be using, because this technique is going to be very useful to you no matter what rhinestone software you might be using. So if we come in here and take a look at the Oobling software, you can take a look at this software at synergy17.com. But you can see right here at this intersection of the southern, you can see that what Oobling does is it tried to detect that intersecting point, and it kind of did, but it didn't do it in the way we would want it to. In other words, I would prefer this rhinestone to be right smack dab at that intersection, and it's not. It's offset, so to me it looks a little weird when we do our design work. And then over here on our letter T, you can see it did put a stone right there at the intersection, but then there's this gaping hole here and a gaping hole here. Now, yes, we could go in there and modify that very simply, but the point is in other areas we may not be able to modify things so simply, and so getting a better understanding of how these programs look at our artwork and different things that we can do to simplify it and get the exact results that we want every time. That's really what we're talking about here. Now let's look at one more piece of software. This is the Hotfix era software, and Hotfix does a pretty good job, because look at here on the S, it actually did a great job on the S, because it did exactly what we would expect it to do. In terms of being intelligent, it dropped a stone right smack at that intersection, but it left us hanging on the T. So it's like a give and take. One software did good on the T, not on the S, the other software back and forth, right? So again, we'd have to do some editing and modification of our letter T. Again, it's not very major, but we would have to do a little bit of editing. So I'm going to clear out those stones and show you how to take care of this. Now, on our letter T, we have two paths that make up the letter T. And in this case, because we have two paths, we can take care of that very easily by coming over here to the Editing tab and choosing our intersection point. And EasyStone will actually detect those intersections for us automatically. So it's very easy to do. We don't have to do any work. And then if I go back to adding stones, you can see it adds stones absolutely perfectly. On our letter T right there at that intersection, doesn't have gaping holes, doesn't drop stones where we don't expect it. We get the exact results that we expect because we told it to look at the intersections. It found that intersection and knows now to place a stone right at that intersection. But that does not work on our letter S. And the reason it doesn't work on our letter S is because we're not using more than one path. So that does create a separate problem for us. Now, one thing we could try is to draw just a very basic straight line, right? So we're just going to draw a line from right here. Oops, let's undo that. So we're going to draw a line from here to the intersecting point, and then from that intersecting point over. So we just drew a small line there. So now we do have two intersections, and now we can try our intersecting point there. Okay, so now let's see what we get. We'll go ahead and delete those two lines that we don't need, and now You can see we have one piece there, but we still have this lingering piece down here. So it did one part of it, but not the other. So then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and try that same technique again, basically, where we draw a line, and then we draw a line, and then we're going to select both of the large S in that line, and we'll do the intersection again, and again we'll see now what's happened. It did not take care of that intersecting point there like we would hope it would. And the reason for that is probably because if we look at this design really close, it's probably not actually an intersection. If we were to zoom in really tight here and go to wireframe mode and look and see if that was an intersection there, it's really hard to see if it is or it isn't. Aha, see? You can see it's just a very tiny thing there. So the proper way to do this, let me go ahead and just back up a few steps here. Really the easy, simple way to do it from the very beginning is this. So we have one single line. So here's what I typically will do in a situation where I have one continuous line that overhangs itself, crosses over itself. I zoom into this intersection. I go into wireframe mode, so under the view menu choose wireframe, and I go to my shape edit tool, and you can see both lines kind of turn this little bit dashed line. So what I'll do is just create a tiny little node on that one and a tiny little node on that one, very close together. We'll select them both, and then we'll come break at nodes. And now if I back up and really take a look at what I have here, you see I have one line segment there, and then I have one loop and then the larger loop. Okay, so but because those nodes that I were selecting were so close together, watch what happens when I stone the whole works. Okay, so I'll go ahead and select all three pieces, come back over here and choose add stones, and now you can see at that intersection right there is that stone where I wanted it. If I go to view and enhance mode, you can see it's right smack dab where I want it. Now here's the great thing about this. Let me go ahead and clear those stones out. If I now save this artwork and bring it into Hotfix, or if I bring it into Oobling, or whatever Rhinestone, even Make the Cut, whatever Rhinestone software I might be using, because those paths are cut at those intersecting points, every single Rhinestone software we apply stones to will recognize that intersection and give us perfect results every single time. So just remember that little trick when you get really close, when you have a path that's overlapping itself. Create a couple of little nodes, break them apart using that break at node function here in EasyStone, and then you can go ahead and stone your whole design, and you'll get a great result right at that intersection every single time. And you can see very easy to do. Thanks for watching.